Hello everyone, Weather Jamaica here. Welcome to this updated video on the weather across Jamaica and the rest of the Caribbean. It is Thursday evening, May 29, 2025. Now before we jump into it, please ensure that you all like this video. I'd really appreciate it if you all get this video up to 100 likes. If you don't know by now, that's how the YouTube algorithm works. We all like the video and then the YouTube algorithm pushes the video out to more persons who are in the path of these tropical systems so that we can keep everyone safe, especially during the peak month of Atlantic hurricane season. That's August through to October. Share this video with your friends, your co-workers, your relatives, and even your church brethren, and subscribe if you haven't yet done so. Please ensure that you all utilize the progress bar that's located at the bottom of the video, as well as the timestamps that are located not only in the comment section but the video description, so that you can skip to the points in the video that you want to see the most in order to save time, because we know that the videos over here with the Jamaica can be very long. Leave a comment down below letting me know what the that's been like in your area recently. Also feel free to ask any weather related question that you might have about the future of the weather in your specific area. Alright, so let's just take a look at the US National Hurricane Center 7-day graphical tropical weather outlook that just came out at around 7:11 p.m. Eastern Daylight Time, which is actually 6:11 p.m. Jamaica time. So that just came out almost an hour ago. As you can see here, tropical cyclone activity is not expected during the next 7 days. And we know that if we get something to formulate in the Atlantic, the first name on the list will be the female name Andrea. However, something definitely formed out in the Eastern Pacific today. We finally have Tropical Storm Alvin. Located right here to the south of Mexico, we can see all of the clouds fanning out upper levels of the atmosphere for sure. Definitely signifying that it is somewhat of a strengthening system, even though we have some upper level wind shear, especially on the western side, blowing those cloud tops off. We definitely have some convection, especially near the core of the system. We also have some convection extending far out to the northeast of the system, heading into portions of coastal Mexico for sure. And behind the system, we see that there's still a lot of moisture across portion of the eastern Pacific for sure. Regarding the latest from the Hurricane Center, they've stated that as of their 2 p.m. advisory, this storm is packing maximum sustained winds of 60 miles per hour. It is moving towards the northwest at 12 miles per hour. As you can see here, it should be maintaining that strength, tropical storm status with the S's, then downgrading back to a D, that's a tropical depression, by the end of the day on Saturday. And look how close it gets to the Baja Peninsula. Very interesting. As of right now, no tropical storm watches or warnings are up, considering that this is a fish storm, but we can definitely see the tropical storm force winds in the, what do you call that, gold colors right here in and around the system, especially on the northern and eastern sides of the system center. On another note, we also have another area, another code yellow, that has a 20% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. The Eastern Pacific is just cranking them out one after the next. According to the Hurricane Center, an area of low pressure could form by the middle part of next week, offshore of the coast of Central America and southern Mexico. Environmental conditions appear favorable for some development of the system thereafter, while it moves generally westward to west-northwestward at around 10 to 15 miles per hour. And we see that they've given it a 0% chance of cyclone formation within the next 48 hours, that's the next 7 days, and a 20% chance of cyclone formation within the next 7 days. So it should be pushing towards the west as well, hopefully missing land just like Alvin. And we know that the next name after Alvin is going to be Barbara. So let's stay tuned to see if we actually get that system. Taking a look at the surface map of the Atlantic for this evening, we can see a frontal system extending from northern portion of North Atlantic all the way down to the north of the Eastern Caribbean. We can also see a ridge of high pressure right here that we know is responsible for sending all of the easterly trade winds across the main development region into the Caribbean. We see that tropical wave, that first one, has definitely made it across the waters of the Caribbean, now into the Western Caribbean. We also see another tropical wave that's currently affecting portions of northeastern South America. It's right here to the east of the Caribbean. Let us see what the visible satellite images are showing. So the visible satellite images right here before the sun went down, definitely showing some amount of clouds associated with the tropical wave, more so to the south, affecting portions of maybe Nicaragua, Costa Rica, Panama, We can also see the clouds associated with that frontal system extending all the way over to the north of the eastern Caribbean, and we can make out the clouds associated with that tropical wave right here, bringing some amount of isolated thundershower activity to the portion of northeast and South America, and we can clearly see some of that moisture entrailing into portion of the eastern Caribbean too. Look at the upper level flow of the cirrus clouds streaking off from southwest to northeast across the central Caribbean. Very interesting. Either way, you can also make out the low level flow of the clouds being steered from east west if you look closely, all courtesy of the ridges of high pressure to the north. We'll be talking more about the rest of the Caribbean weather later on. Let us focus our attention on the prediction that was made in this morning's video. So I apologize for not getting a video out yesterday. I was very busy, but clearly the morning post highlighted the fact that we would have been receiving some morning rainfall across the northeast. As a matter of fact, it wasn't only the northeast, but eastern Jamaica definitely got on some of the isolated shore activity this morning, if not partly cloudy skies. And then it was predicted to, rain across sections of some central and western parishes during Thursday afternoon. And we know northeastern parishes, we're basically talking about St. Ann, St. Mary, Portland. Eastern parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Surrey, like Portland, St. Thomas, Kingston, St. Andrew. Central parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Middlesex, like St. Ann, St. Mary, Manchester, Clarendon, St. Catherine. While western parishes, we're talking about those parishes in the county of Cornwall, like Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, Westmoreland, and St. Elizabeth. And what ended up happening? At around 5:48 a.m., the Guantanamo Bay, Cuba, U.S. Navy Doppler radar imagery was posted not only here on our Twitter page with the Jamaica, but it was also posted on our Instagram page with the Jamaica, on our TikTok page with the Jamaica, and on our Facebook page with the Jamaica 876. So if you have one of those social media platforms, please ensure that you follow us there as we make posts throughout the day that you can't afford to miss. So at that time, 5:48 a.m., we definitely saw some rainfall in the blues, the greens, the yellows. The blues we know represent light rainfall. The greens represent moderate rainfall. The yellows, as we know, represents up to some heavy rainfall. We saw some of these rain bands extending from the western peninsula of Haiti all the way over into portion of northeastern Jamaica. Portland, St. Mary definitely got in on that early morning rainfall for sure. And then at around 2:55 p.m., the infrared close-up satellite image was also posted, and it highlighted some clouds, bringing some overcast skies, if not some thunderstorms, across sections of some central and western parishes. More so western parishes, with some inland areas of some central parishes at that time. We can definitely see the blues into the greens, into the yellows, into the oranges and reds that represent that thunderstorm activity, the cumulonimbus cloud action. We can see also the sparkling white dots that we know represent some amount of lightning strikes, if not lightning flashes, across sections of Hanover, St. James, Westmoreland, northwestern St. Elizabeth, the cockpit country in general, sections of Trelawney getting in on the action as well. And if we take a look at the visible satellite images of Jamaica before we lost sunlight, we can definitely make out that flow of the low level to mid level clouds being steered from east west across the island. Then those clouds built up, especially across the western end, when they became cumulonimbus clouds now. Upper level wind shear was blowing those cloud tops off towards the south for sure. And we saw that even when we're losing the sunlight, we still have some leftover clouds across portions of the cockpit country right there. And if we take a look back at the infrared close-up satellite images of Jamaica, we definitely saw that we got the isolated thunderstorm activity first across sections of some inland areas of some central parishes, maybe southern Trelawney, southwestern St. Ann. Then most of the thunderstorms took place across western Jamaica for sure. They definitely got drenched over there, as you can see. And then we had some of these thunderstorms off to our west. And if we take a look at the live camera here from See Jamaica's YouTube channel at around 11:14 a.m., we definitely had some isolated showers across my portion of Kingston today where I work. Definitely much welcome. It was also cloudy a bit, bringing down the temperatures just slightly. It was definitely hot for the most part. Across halfway tree, we can definitely see that it was mostly sunny, if not partly cloudy, especially upon the hills of St. Andrew. We can see people in their vehicles going about their business. Nothing significant taking place at that time. And I would like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to see more live streams like this, just visit See Jamaica on YouTube. They have these live streams for your viewing pleasure, and they're planning on increasing the amount of cameras that they have in and around the island. So subscribe today so that you don't miss out. We definitely have a few comments here from some of our subscribers and followers on our social media platforms. We have Randall Green here sitting, good evening with the Jamaica. We get some rain in Brownstown, St. Ann from today, but it stopped now. It's now partly cloudy skies in St. Anne. Thanks for confirming, Randale. We also have active 4081 stating Clarendon extremely hot. Boy, I know the feeling. We also have Marlon underscore 1 God underscore stating Clarendon cloudy with the Jamaica. One Ryan dot underscore stating raining in Hanover, a lot of lightning and thunder. Thank you for confirming for me, Ryan, who lives over there in Hanover. Alright, so let us reload the very latest still image from the Weather Nerds website. Let us see what's happening right now. The latest still image is showing 23:55 UTC, which is actually around 6:55 p.m. So this just came out 5, 10, 13 minutes ago, considering that it's 7:08 p.m. right now. And what do we see across the island? Not much of anything. Definitely clearing out. There's some milky whitish shades, some clouds right here to the north of Hanover. You also see some slight isolated thunder showers to the west of the island. You also see some slight clouds to the east of the island. Do we have the Doppler radar imagery to confirm anything coming out of these clouds? Nope, unfortunately. It looks like the Cuban Doppler radar glitched out at around 2:50 p.m. Eastern Standard Time. Is actually 1:50 p.m. Jamaica time. But at that time, we definitely saw some isolated showers across sections of the west for sure. The Guantanamo Bay Doppler radar as well as the Cayman radar are here to save the day. According to the Guantanamo Bay U.S. Navy Doppler radar, seeing some isolated showers to the northwest of Guantanamo, some isolated showers across the western peninsula of Haiti, just some moderate to some slightly heavy rainfall in the yellows. Nothing significant, and we can clearly see that Jamaica is in the clear. Regarding the Cayman radar, we see some isolated showers across the southern portion of central Cuba for sure. We also see some isolated showers to the southeast of the Cayman Islands, some of which definitely had something to do with the rainfall that took place across sections of western Jamaica today. But we can see that western Jamaica is in the clear for the most part now. Regarding what's happening right now, according to the live camera here from See Jamaica's YouTube channel showing the flat bridge in St. Catherine, we can see that as of 7:10 p.m. one truck right here, the driver going about his business for sure. Nothing taking place in terms of bad weather. The rear Cobra definitely chilling, as you can see here. As a matter of fact, when I looked at this image earlier, the rear Cobra looked as if it was running a bit low. I mean, look at the green morass right here. I think the water was up there at one point. So, I don't know. Correct me if I'm wrong. Does it look like it's running low to anybody else? Well, it's understandable considering that we haven't been getting on much rain this month. We definitely got a lot of it last month, but not this month, May, which is a bit strange. We're going to be having the recap regarding how May actually turned out on the last day of May. Just stay tuned to our social media platforms for sure. Alright, taking a look at the temperatures right now, we can see the we have 27 degrees Celsius in both Montego Bay and Kingston, and by about 4 a.m. on Friday, temperature should dip down to about 26 degrees Celsius in Montego Bay, 24 degrees Celsius in Kingston. Taking a look at the temperature forecast for tomorrow, this map from the GFS is valid for 18Z on Friday, which is actually 1 p.m. on Friday, and we can see Jamaica right here embedded in some slight yellows that we know represents up to at least 1 degree Celsius above normal temperature. I know the normal temperature for the month of May across Jamaica is around 89 degrees Fahrenheit, and when that's converted to degrees Celsius that we use here in Jamaica, that is around 31.6 degrees Celsius. So it should be receiving anywhere from 31.6 to 32.6 degrees Celsius at most for Jamaica's temperature on Friday. And unfortunately, we have at least one maintenance outage advisory here from my JPS online Twitter page that we have to highlight. I know that we have to highlight these because we know that when we have power outages somewhere across the island, it can definitely make the heat feel even worse because we don't have our fan or our AC to cool us down. So if you live or work in these areas, or if you have friends or relatives who live or work in these areas, please let them know that a power outage is coming their way on Friday, May 30, 2025. We're referring to Morse District, if I'm not butchering that place's name. Is it Morse or is it Morris? Either way, that's in the parish of Clarendon from 9:30 a.m. to 6 p.m. We have some tips right here to beat the heat as usual. It states here, seek shade when outside. Eat fresh. Try eating cold foods such as salads and fruits. Rest. Make sure you get enough sleep and rest if you're feeling tired. Soak. Take a cool shower or bath to help you cool down. And I cannot stress enough the importance of staying hydrated throughout the day. Drink lots of water even if you're not thirsty, and put away those sugar drinks and drink water instead. Taking a look at the dry ear map, we know that the dry ear is represented by what we see here by the key on the bottom. That's the yellows, the oranges, the reds, and the whites within those reds. And look at the abundance of dry air across the eastern Atlantic and the northern portion of the North Atlantic. A lot of dry sinking air there, making the atmosphere stable, making it harder for it to rain. But what we like to see is the fact that we're seeing some yellows here and there across the western Atlantic, the southwestern Atlantic, the eastern Pacific, where we see a lot of blues. That's what you like to see, the yellows and the blues that represent the low end of the scale in terms of dry air and the moist air, so we can get some more rainfall in order to keep water in our pipes. Regarding the Saharan dust forecast, so tomorrow is the 30th day of May. As you can see here, today into tomorrow, definitely clearing out. Saturday, even more so. June 1st though, look at the abundance of Saharan dust in the oranges, in the purples / pinks, pushing through into the Caribbean. The Eastern Caribbean is definitely going to be getting nailed for sure with that Saharan dust. Definitely coming in there by June 1. More than likely, that should be making its way into the Jamaica area by about June 2, if I'm not mistaken. Or we can't catch a break. Just ensure that you have your meds handy for sure. Taking a look at the wave forecast for tomorrow, clearly we're still seeing that the highest waves should be to the north of Colombia, to the north of Panama, to the far south of Jamaica, where we see those purples into the pinks that represents anywhere from 2, maybe close to 3 meter wave heights. While we see the light shades of blues to dark shades of blues extending from the Gulf into the Bahamas, into portion of the Caribbean that represents anywhere from 0.5 meter wave height all the way up to 1.5 meter wave heights. And that's because of the winds that are expected, more of an easterly flow across the Caribbean, more of a southeasterly flow across the Gulf. And clearly the highest winds should be right here to the south of Jamaica, to the south of Haiti, which explains why the waves are so high. We're getting up to 20 to 25 knots here in the bright greens and yellows, as we can see here from the key on the bottom right, while elsewhere is getting in on anywhere from 5 to 10 to maybe up to 15 knots. But regarding Jamaica's wave forecast for tomorrow, up to 1.1 meter wave height right here to the north of St. Anne, 1.4 meter wave height to the north of Hanover, 0.8 of a meter wave height to the north of, wait, did I say Hanover over here? This should be to the north of Portland. Okay, see, it's fluctuating. 0.8 a while ago, now it's 0.7 of a meter wave height to the north of Hanover. To the south of Westmoreland, 0.9 of a meter wave height expected. To the south of St. Elizabeth, 1.1 meter wave height. 1 meter wave height to the south of Clarendon. And to the south of St. Thomas, 1.7 meter wave height expected. And that's because of the winds that are expected. We see more of an easterly flow for sure across the island tomorrow. Definitely going to be stronger on the south coast, wherever we have the brighter greens. The 16 knots right here to the south of Kingston, 18 knots right here to the southwest of St. Elizabeth. On the north coast, 15 knots to the north of St. James, 12 knots to the north of St. Mary. Very interesting. Either way, we see that the least amount of winds in the blues should be across sections of some central and western parishes. And wherever we have the least amount of wind, that's where we're going to be having all of that air building up, all of those low-level clouds becoming mid-level rain clouds, if not upper-level cumulonimbus clouds. And if we actually get them to become those cumulonimbus clouds, those cloud tops will be sheared off towards the south by that upper-level wind shear. We definitely still have a trough somewhere in here, as we can see. That's definitely a trough right there. You can see the curvature, jet stream dipping down. Definitely going to be bringing more of that northerly wind shear. So just like what we had today when we had the thunderstorms, we saw how the cloud tops were being sheared off towards the south by that upper level wind shear, bringing more overcast sky section to some southern parishes. We could get on something similar to that on Friday. And regarding the actual rainfall forecast maps now, this map from the Euro and this map from the GFS are both valid for 9 a.m. Eastern Standard Time, which is actually 8 a.m. Jamaica time. And look at what we're seeing across the far eastern end of the island. Some blues represent some isolated showers across maybe sections of St. Thomas and Portland. We see that on both the Euro and the GFS. We even see some of that rainfall out to sea to the north. Will it actually be out to sea, or will we actually get some of that across the land areas on the north coast? And then at around 3 p.m. Eastern Standard Time, is actually 2 p.m. Jamaica time, both the Euro and the GFS are adamant that it's going to be raining, especially across sections of some central and western parishes. The Euro trying to incorporate sections of eastern Jamaica. The GFS not so much. Euro right here. GFS definitely clear for the east. It's more so central western Jamaica. We'll see exactly what unfolds. Either way, we see the consensus of sections of central western Jamaica with that rainfall. So clearly, the forecast is going to be for morning rainfall across the eastern end of the island, afternoon rainfall across sections of some central and western parishes. And we can clearly see the rainfall totals that are expected. The Euro a bit less, but it's showing more widespread rainfall from the eastern end to the western end, maybe up to 0.2 of an inch of rainfall. The GFS going up to at least 0.54 of an inch of rainfall, especially in and around St. James. Very interesting, but it's looking to be that it's gonna be more so the rainfall in the areas such as Hanover, St. James, Trelawney, section of northern St. Elizabeth, Westmoreland, northern Manchester, northern Clarendon, northern St. Catherine, northern St. Andrew, section of St. Mary, St. Anne, Trelawney for sure. We'll see how that actually plays out as time goes on, and we'll definitely be here to keep you posted. Either way, whatever happens, we'll definitely take it because we're in the month of May. And in Kingston, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the top, we usually receive close to 140 millimeters of rainfall. In Montego Bay, whose bar graph is being shown right here at the bottom, we usually receive close to 6 inches of rainfall for the month of May. And I'd like for you to keep in mind that if you'd like to find out what your specific parish usually receives in terms of rainfall for the month of May or for the entire year, you can visit weatherandclimate.com, and that website will show that information. And you can use this nice graphic right here that converts rainfall from inches to millimeters. Know that 1 inch of rainfall is about the same as 25 millimeters of rainfall, so you can do the calculations yourself. Alright, so we're going to be looking at what the next 7 days have in store for us according to the latest Euro and GFS supercomputer model runs that came out today. So keep your eyes focused on the timestamp right here at the top as we go to the next 168 hours. Keep your eyes focused on Jamaica right here as we look for all of this that we see on the key on the right. That's the reds, the oranges, the yellows, and the greens that represents inches of rainfall. So let's see what's going to be taking place. So we're looking at Saturday morning. Don't see much of anything across Jamaica. Maybe some isolated showers to our southwest. GFS showing something similar. GFS also incorporating some isolated showers for a section of the far eastern end. We have contrast. Then for Saturday afternoon, look at that. We see some isolated showers across eastern, central, western Jamaica. But does the GFS show for the same time period? It looks to be more so northern and western Jamaica rather than eastern, central, western Jamaica for Saturday. Let's see what Sunday is showing. On Sunday morning, not really seeing anything across Jamaica. Sunday afternoon, maybe some eastern, northern, and western parishes. What does the GFS show? Sunday morning, nothing. Sunday afternoon, look at that. Eastern, central, and western parishes. So we have some contrast. Let us see what Monday is showing. On Monday morning, not really much of anything. Maybe some isolated showers across the southern and eastern ends. We also see an abundance of moisture into the Bahamas, western Cuba, and the western Caribbean, as well as the southwestern Caribbean. Very interesting. What does the afternoon look like? Still having that moisture across the western Caribbean and the Bahamas as well as Cuba. Maybe some isolated showers across the central to eastern portion of the island of Jamaica. What does the GFS show for Monday morning? Most of that rainfall to the west and into the Bahamas. Then on Monday afternoon, look at that. We don't really see much of anything across Jamaica. Maybe some isolated showers across the eastern and northwestern ends. But look at the Bahamas, Cuba, northwestern Caribbean. Very wet. What does Tuesday morning show? On Tuesday morning, we see some rainfall extending from the Bahamas, Cuba, section of the Cayman Islands, the southern portion of Jamaica, the southwestern Caribbean right there. Then on Tuesday afternoon, look at this. We see some of that rainfall into portion of the Bahamas, Cuba, the western Caribbean right here, the Yucatan, Central America getting in on some of that. What does the GFS show for Tuesday morning? Just like what the Euro was showing, that mess of moisture into the Bahamas and western Caribbean. Tuesday afternoon, however, we see some isolated showers across some eastern, northern, and western parishes. Let us see what Wednesday morning is showing. On Wednesday morning, not really seeing much of anything, but clearly most of the moisture that was affecting the Cayman Islands has now pushed off towards the west. We see that most of it is right here near the Yucatan, section of Belize, the western tip of Cuba, the southern portion of Florida into the Bahamas, still affecting portion of the southwestern Caribbean. And then we're stopping it right here. On Thursday, not seeing much of anything across Jamaica at all. Maybe some isolated showers to our north. Nothing really significant. Just see what the GFS is showing. Do we actually have the consensus? On Wednesday morning, some rainfall into the Bahamas, rainfall into the western Caribbean, southwestern Caribbean. Wednesday afternoon, look at that, central and western Jamaica, that rainfall. Then we're stopping it right here at the end of the 168 hours. This is valid for Thursday, June 5. And look at this, we're starting to see something trying to spin up right here. Maybe this could be that code yellow that the Hurricane Center is highlighting because it is within that 7-day time frame. Or maybe this is something else. Who knows? Either way, What we're highlighting on the GFS is the abundance of moisture that's starting to pick up to the east of Nicaragua, to the north of Panama at that time. We kind of see some of that right here on the Euro, but we don't see it as robust as what we see on the GFS. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly what takes place as we head into June. But regarding the total accumulated precipitation forecast maps now, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until Thursday, June 5. And we can clearly see that over the next 7 days, the most rainfall as represented by the dark reds into the purples and the pinks that we know represent anywhere from 2 all the way up to 5 inches of rainfall should be across portions of Northern and South America. French Guyana, Suriname, Guyana, Trinidad and Tobago, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, Nicaragua, Honduras, Belize, Guatemala, El Salvador getting in on some of that. We also see some of that heavy rainfall, especially across sections of Florida, Cuba, the Bahamas as well. And if we take a look at the Euro, we see something similar regarding these rainfall totals. So these areas that are highlighted going to get in on some amount of isolated flash flooding, while other areas that are not highlighted, because they're getting in on those greens, yellows, oranges, and reds, that represents up to at least an inch of rainfall. Areas like Jamaica, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Puerto Rico, not saying that they can't get more than it to bring flooding, but definitely less in terms of the overall forecast. The Leeward and Windward Islands getting in on some of that rainfall too, even the ABC Islands, and we can clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS modes are in agreement for the most part. But regarding Jamaica's total accumulated precipitation forecast maps for the next 7 days, both maps right here are showing all the rainfall that's expected from now up until Thursday, June 5, and Thursday, June 6, right? Is this June 6? No, June 5. We can clearly see that the most rainfall should be across the far eastern end. The Euro going up to at least 77 millimeters of rainfall in eastern St. Thomas, eastern Portland. The GFS going up to at least 59 millimeters of rainfall in eastern St. Thomas, eastern Portland. It's going to be very interesting to see exactly how all of this plays out, because you know that all of this rainfall that we see across central and western Jamaica is going to be during the afternoon hours, and it's looking to be more so northern and western parishes on the GFS. The Euro more so central and western parishes. We'll see how that actually goes. Alright, so we're going to be focusing our attention on the latest satellite images of the Atlantic, and we can clearly see the low to mid-level flow of the clouds pushing from east-west in the eastern Caribbean. Definitely some isolated shores passed through today. If we actually take a look at the Doppler radar imagery in and around Puerto Rico, we're seeing some isolated shores to the north and east of Puerto Rico, some isolated shores across the far eastern end of the Dominican Republic. We also see some isolated shores to the south of Guadeloupe, to the east of Dominica. Regarding the Barbados radar, you can see some isolated shores pushing from east to west, some light to moderate rainfall like that into portions of Martinique, Dominica, Martinique, St. Lucia, some isolated shores pushing through into portions of maybe Grenada, the Grenadines, Trinidad and Tobago. If we take a look at what I've uploaded our imagery, we can see that rainfall that portion of central and western Florida had today, section of central and western Cuba had today, section of northwestern Guatemala had today. You can also see that rainfall across sections of Colombia, sections of Guyana. We see that isolated shore that we just saw on the Barbados radar. And regarding the rainfall that's expected within the next 24 hours, both maps right here from the Euro and the GFS are adamant that the most rainfall over the next 24 hours should be across portions of northern South America, Guyana, Suriname, French Guyana, Venezuela, Colombia, Panama, Costa Rica, southeastern Nicaragua, southern Guatemala, section of southwestern El Salvador, section of Trinidad and Tobago, Grenada, St. Vincent and Grenadines, Barbados, St. Lucia, Martinique, Dominica, Guadeloupe. We also see some isolated shores in store for Puerto Rico, Haiti, Dominican Republic, Jamaica, Cuba getting in on some of the action, and we clearly see that both the Euro and the GFS modes are in agreement with this forecast. I know that when they're in agreement like this, the chances are higher for it to actually take place. Alright, so that's it for today. Thanks for watching.